It's time for Talon Talk with the 2nd Combat Aviation Brigade on AFN the Eagle, serving America's best.
I must say, if you've never listened to our show in the past, you picked a very good time to tune in. This is Talon Talk, as you heard the random voice announcer guy intro us there, and I'm very appreciative of you listening to our station. This is AFN Osan, the Eagle, serving you, America's best. My name is Army Sergeant Aaron Lloyd. It is 2:07 on this Thursday, February 5th, and as you're probably used to hearing my voice, I'm just going to keep it down and be quiet and introduce my guests. I've got one guest who I'm familiar with, Army Sergeant Jesse Smith. I appreciate you coming back.
Of course.
And
second to none.
Second to none. We got to do that at least once a segment, right?
At least.
At least. So appreciate you coming back. But a new guest for myself. I've got Army Lieutenant Colonel Matt Ketchum in the studio. And sir, you are the 617th Squadron Commander. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
I very much appreciate you being here. For our listener who has no idea who you are, and even for myself, who doesn't really know a whole lot, do you want to just let our audience know who you are, what you do?
Sure. For the last 9 months, my squadron's been on the ground here. We've been flying the Kyle Warrior, the little tiny aircraft flying around with a ball on top.
Sure.
Usually flies in pairs.
Yeah.
We've been doing that. It's been a good rotation. We're out of Fort Wainwright, Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
And we've just finished up our 9-month rotation, and we're about ready to head on back to the frozen tundra of the north.
Frozen tundra. When I hear frozen tundra, I think of Green Bay Packers, but that's just because that's where I went to college in Wisconsin.
Sounds like a terrible place.
Different type of frozen tundra.
I would say so. It's been about minus 47 up there the last 3 or 4 days, so it's been pretty cold.
Very cold. So you've been here almost 9 months effectively, correct?
Yes, almost 9 months.
Have you enjoyed your time so far?
Oh, we have. It's been great. It's been some great training going on here.
Any big highlights for you that really stick out in terms of maybe sightseeing or maybe just things with the soldiers, etc.?
Been able to get most of my soldiers up to the DMZ. A lot of the folks, it's been their first time actually outside. Junior soldiers getting out to see the DMZ. And then also getting to, with our Catoosa partners, out to see some of the areas. And
where are you from? I kind of mentioned I went to college in Wisconsin. I'm kind of from the Midwest, but what about you?
No, I'm from the West Coast. I'm a small town out of the Dalles, Oregon.
Okay. I've never really been to that part. Farthest west I've been is L.A.
Yeah, right. No, we're a little further north of that.
A little further north.
Oh, yes.
Well, that's very cool. I appreciate you coming on the show. We got lots of Talon Talk just for you, a very happy listener. I got a very happy song right now. It's called Shiny Happy People. You guys know who REM is?
Oh, yes.
Of course. Sergeant Smith's like...
No, I have no idea.
Yes, you do. Shiny Happy People playing right now for you, but I appreciate you being here, both of you being on the show. This is Talon Talk. We got lots more in just a few minutes, but first, as promised, this is REM with Shiny Happy People. You are listening to AFN Osan, the Eagle, serving you, America's best.
And now, back to Talon Talk on AFN the Eagle, serving America's best.
You heard correcto. This is Talon Talk, and joining me in the studio, you know him. You may or may not love him, Army Sergeant.
I think everybody does.
Jesse, he already knew. He's like, they do. And then also, very special guest for myself. Haven't had him in the studio until today. I've got Army Lieutenant Colonel Matt Ketchum. Appreciate you being here, sir.
It's great. It's great being here. Thanks.
Absolutely. I have a lot of fun on radio, and as I was kind of briefing you before we went on, it goes really quick. I mean, these segments just kind of fly by, and if you miss the top of the show, because it does fly by so quickly, you were letting us know that you've been here for kind of a 9-month deployment of sorts, hailing from Alaska, correct?
That's right. 9-month rotation out of Fort Wainwright, Alaska, flying the Kyle Warriors.
Sure, and I was plugging your brain a little bit during the break there. This is not your first time in the Republic of Korea, is that correct?
No, that's correct. Second Lieutenant Matt Ketchum arrived here in November of 1996.
Yeah?
First assignment.
It's amazing. I imagine you can probably go back and think the exact ranks, the exact locations, installations, etc.
Oh, yes. They're still the ranker here. However, my installation's been closed and all the cement's been pulled up and the fence is gone.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow. And when was this again?
1996.
1996.
What base was that?
That was Camp Stanton up there west of Camp Casey. So
Wow. I was at the ripe young age of 12 years old at that time.
Thank you.
I think I was younger.
I'll get a special talking to after this segment after I've kind of called out the age. But that's very cool. I'm curious, as someone who's been here before, I've talked to a few, but what would you say have you seen that's maybe very similar or different just in terms of being here once and then again years later?
Well, I think when I first got here, there weren't as many power lines to fly around.
Yeah.
And the landscapes are most the same, except there are a lot of new buildings. And,
yeah.
They've really come of age, I would say, with all the paved roads
sure.
and The one-eyed dragons up north are still kind of on the side streets, not necessarily running you over on the main road, though.
And you make a good point, too, because when you fly here for the first time, you kind of see all the mountainous region, and then you don't really realize if you've never been here, look, 70% of the country is mountainous. So like you're saying, it's probably not going to change that much in that time because they have limited space, right?
That's correct. Just the buildings are all new with all the blue roofs and the orange ones, too.
But you've been here for 9 months. I imagine you've gotten a lot accomplished in that short amount of time because you still have a mission to complete.
Of course.
Do you feel like that kind of happened in that 9 months, that you're able to come in, kind of boots on ground, so to speak, and kind of hit the ground running?
Oh, yes. I mean, we trained as if this was going to be a full-blown deployment into Iraq or Afghanistan.
Sure.
And then kind of arrived here ready to fight, and we're able to continue to train.
Well, that's good to hear, and I really want to get into specifics of that kind of military-wise, but I want to take a moment here and make it a little more personal.
Oh, of course.
Because that's what I love to do, and I know our listeners that are listening as well. There's a time and place for everything, but me personally, I've been here for almost 2 years. I've thoroughly enjoyed my time, got to get out and see the sights and go on tours and trips and stuff like that. But for yourself, have you been able to get out and kind of enjoy the different places you can go and sightsee?
Oh, yes. Up to Seoul, lots of times to Seoul. A lot of the soldiers, though, have been down to the Busan and Busan, those
very
areas.
Popular.
Daegu, of course, back and forth, out to the East Coast, hanging out at some of the resort towns there.
Yeah.
It's been a good time for them.
Did you get to go down to Busan?
I did not. I had soldiers go. They took the bullet train down.
Yeah, very popular for, I think it's the Mud Fest they do down there.
No, it's not that far south.
It's not that one?
No, there's Mudfest just south of Seoul.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I'm thinking it's the one down in Busan, but what would you say is your favorite? Do you like Seoul? Is that kind of your go-to if you're going to go out and about?
I'm going to go out and about. It's Seoul. There's a lot of things to see and do.
Yeah, for me personally, I'd say skiing, snowboarding is a lot of fun for me. I'd never done it till I came to the country, and there's
very nice.
You can go pretty much every weekend while you're here in the winter, you know?
Oh, yes.
Well, that's very cool. Are you here with a family at all? You here by yourself?
No, it's an unaccompanied 9 months, and all the soldiers came, but there were some families that came over to visit, especially around the Christmas time.
Oh,
my wife came and visited for Christmas.
Yeah? How was that?
Nice. It was good. It was good to see her.
Had she been here before?
She had not.
Interesting. What did she think?
She spent some time in the Asian culture, and so it's not so bad. But the sushi and stuff, she's just a bulgogi.
Okay, bulgogi.
Yeah,
bulgogi is great.
That's where I'm at. I don't venture too far from the basics.
Sure. I think it's really interesting coming to this country myself because I think it's a good example of a country that probably the average American doesn't really know a whole lot about. You kind of have maybe these preconceived notions or misconceptions. Then you get here and you're like, a lot of those are wrong.
Oh, yes, the fish market definitely surprises you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you were talking about the DMZ earlier as well. You talk about eye-opening. I don't know if you had gone, when you were here before.
Both times. Both times. One time to the JSA and this last time just to the Osan train station, those areas, and the Overwatch. And it's still a very desolate country.
It's very true. I always tell people when I talk about those trips that nothing really puts your perspective in the right place being here as a service member until you kind of walk out those doors because you kind of get those hairs that stand on the back of your neck.
Everybody's watching then.
It's very true, but definitely check out that tour, listening if you haven't gone already. I think it's safe to say we both recommend that tour.
Oh, yes, very much so. Get the JSA if you can.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you being here. We got lots more show to go. This is Talon Talk. We'll be back in about, 90 seconds with your weather.
And now, back to Talon Talk on AFN the Eagle, serving America's best.
You heard correct. This is Talon Talk on AFN Osan, the Eagle, serving you America's best. It is 2:31. My name is Army Sergeant Aaron Loy, and still joining me in the studio, Army Sergeant Jesse Smith.
Above the best and above the rest.
I hope you're speaking for the whole unit.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I could be just speaking about myself. I'm not sure.
I know. I was like, is he talking about himself? But hey, confidence is a good thing, right?
Exactly.
You're right. And also in the studio, Army Lieutenant Colonel Matt Ketchum. I appreciate you being here, sir.
It's great to be here today. Thanks.
Absolutely. This is Talon Talk. If you've never heard us before, we talk all sorts of things. 2 cab, second to none.
Fight tonight.
He's like, you can't get me to say it. This is 2 cab land, which we also like to call it second to none. And sir, I want to get back to kind of your tour here. You've been here roughly 9 months from Alaska, and in the last break, if you missed it, we were talking about some of the kind of personal things you've kind of seen and done. But I want to get back to the military. Let's talk Army right now. Is there any specific things that stick out in your nine months here with your tour that really stick out to you?
Sure. The first part with we're part of the Pacific Regional Rotational Forces, Korea. It's been going on for several units now. We bring out around the Combat Aviation Brigade to its full strength.
Sure.
So they bring in the Kai Warriors. Second part of that is, being replaced in 9 months, another organization shows up.
Yeah.
But one of the nice things about coming here to Korea, it provides a little more training.
Yeah.
Able to do than I could get in Alaska.
I've heard that quite a bit, especially from back in the States, where here you've got so much resources that you might not have back in the States.
Exactly, and a lot more units to train with.
Yeah.
Although they're a smaller area, confined a little bit, definitely on a monthly basis you could train with any unit you want and go shoot live fire operations, anything. One of the nice things about here, we were able to conduct live fire at the combined, the joint, and then multinational organizations as well. We shot with our ROC partners all the way out to the Marines. Some of the Rangers showed up. Of course, some of the other units that are on post here for the peninsula. We did have the Air Force come through a little bit to do some training with the A-10s. It's always nice. Yeah,
those big exercises we hold here as well. I might not be able to do those back in the States with all these people here.
Exactly, but with everybody here, everybody wants to fly. So I would say you can get anybody as long as you put a call out and say, hey, we want to go train.
And I'm curious because I got here almost 2 years ago, and it was before they were starting to do these kind of year or 9 month kind of tours or deployments. But for someone who's gone through it firsthand, you think it works?
I think it works. We don't have the rotational issue of 10 to 12% of an organization changing out every month. I arrived here with a set number. Everybody was on a deployment per se.
Sure.
And I didn't get anybody new. So once everybody was trained up to speed, now doing regular missions, I didn't have to worry about training anybody else. I could just send them out and say, go out and conduct.
Sure, and what about junior enlisted and such? I mean, seeing it from those soldiers' perspective, do you see them kind of respond to this tour and deployment?
Well, you realize that, most of the soldiers coming in today are they're wanting to travel. They're wanting to get out and do things. With the war on terror, drawn down a little bit, and we're beginning to see this refocus to the Pacific region, you get those soldiers wanting to go out and do it. Out to the rifle range, out there conducting helicopter maintenance, flying. Foreign officers are always all ready to go out and fly, so it is a continuous process. But coming here, you have nothing else to do except train.
Sure, and Sergeant Smith, you've been here longer than 9 months, question mark?
No, definitely not. I've only been here for about 4 months.
For a few months, but you're not on the 9 month deployment. You're more stationed.
Here. Yes, that's correct.
So you're kind of interesting, kind of like myself, we're kind of on the outside looking in, but you cover this stuff similar to us. What do you see about it?
Well, it seems like it's a great idea because it's a unit that's all staying with the same people.
Sure.
So there's no losing a person and then getting a new person, having to train them, have them get used to the equipment they're going to be working on. It's the same guys going out there doing great training, and it just seems to work.
And that's the response I get from a lot of people that come on this show, and it kind of makes me think if we'll maybe get to that point one day where instead of maybe having the so-called, stationings, that we just kind of have that rotation, especially if it seems to be working.
Sure, I think so. I think it helps to increase the readiness of the U.S. forces on the ground here. I mean, as you look at this piece and these items as they flow through, I brought a unit that was 90% strength across the board. I have green on all of our requirements. Everyone has shot their weapon. It's all personally signed. And when I get boots on the ground here, I immediately raise the readiness of the U.S. Forces to ID.
Yeah, that's another thing is, so I'm sure that you got all of your guys green on PT cards, weapons cards, all before even coming here.
Well, don't forget the shots, too. We got
right. Immunizations.
Immunizations. So that just makes it even easier to have them be ready to fight tonight when they get here. Because the units that are stationed here, they're getting new guys every day.
Sure.
And so they're going to need to take PT tests and go out to the weapons range. And it's just very, it seems very taxing because you don't have a range scheduled for every month for these new guys to go and fire. So it just seems like a great idea to have the units rotate in like that.
I think you make very good points. I think it really comes down to when you have that tour deployment type environment, you come in with that singular mission as opposed to, I'm going to just go get stationed. So I appreciate you guys giving us commentary on that. We're going to take another break. We got more Talon Talk on the way. It's 2:37, but there's more show on the way.
And now, back to Talon Talk on AFN the Eagle, serving America's best.
Welcome back. It is 2:47. My name is Army Sergeant Aaron Loy, and I'll let my two guests introduce themselves first. Sergeant
Sergeant Smith, fight tonight. I am full of motivational lines, always.
Wow, it sounded kind of forced, but I appreciate it regardless. And also, sir?
Lieutenant Colonel Matt Ketchum, 617 Cav, Squadron Commander.
I appreciate both of you being here for this edition of Talon Talk, especially you, sir, because you're on your way out, correct?
I am, yes. We're getting ready to head out of here. In fact, it's so close, it's Monday.
Yeah, he's finishing up his 9-month kind of tour deployments here, hailing from Alaska originally.
Right, Fort Wainwright, Alaska.
And I very much appreciate you being here. If you missed a lot of the show, we've covered quite a bit, kind of personally speaking, kind of your time here, what you've enjoyed with your unit as well, which I kind of want to get back into just a little bit here and get maybe as specific as you can with your soldiers here in the battalion. What is it that you guys have accomplished specifically, would you say?
Well, you mentioned earlier, we're kind of a singly focused when we arrive here. It's a deployment for us.
Yeah.
9 months, good out of there. Soldiers are able to do a lot of the Army training I think they signed up to do.
Yeah.
Going out to the range on a regular basis, not just becoming a marksman and shooter every once in a while, but actually getting to the proficiency stage.
Sure.
So it's very helpful.
Which is good, because I imagine, people of certain rank and certain eyes on it, they want to get feedback and say, hey, does this work or does it not?
Oh, yes.
And it seems, as we've been discussing, it's worked.
Oh, yes, very much so. Not only are you able to go out and do things, guys are working classes they don't normally get because we have that little extra time. Not going home every night. They got the barracks to look forward to.
Sure.
So they're all right getting up early in the morning. Some guys were out doing little taekwondo classes.
Yeah.
And then some Army combatives, of
there
course.
You go.
One of the other things that came about is everybody's become a little more proficient at their MOS skills.
Good.
Because all the flying that's going on, we're still fully funded here, so guys will be able to do the work that they signed up to do.
Yeah.
And it's been kind of nice.
And I think that's a good point, too, because, just in the past when we kind of had the budget cuts come down and the sequestration, everyone's kind of getting scared, MOS and things being cut, I think something good comes from that, which I think is what people wanted ultimately, which is let's take a mirror out and examine what it is that we're doing, how we're doing certain operations. And I think it's safe to say this might have come from something like that, looking about maybe doing things a little differently. And it seems as if this is achieving what we wanted.
I think so. It's definitely an idea. It keeps soldiers practicing or training for a goal and then being able to go out and execute it for more than just a National Training Center rotation. This is actually a 9-month training opportunity. You can see from start to finish an entire run of training.
Yeah, no, I really like the feedback I've gotten so far since I've been here, and I see it going forward. And speaking of moving forward, as someone who's coming out, who's experienced it firsthand, what would you say to the incoming unit or units, kind of in terms of, hey, you might want to know this, or hey, here's some encouraging word, anything like that?
Well, the next unit coming in, the Kiowa Warriors that just arrived here, it's a 2-6 Cav out of Hawaii.
Sure.
A couple of things I'd let them know is get out and find some units that want to train. You'll link up, you make some good partners with some of the other 2ID units, or better yet, expand that into the other forces that are out here. The Air Force always are out looking for somebody to work with. The JTACs, the A-10s, the rest of those folks.
That's a very good point. I think it's kind of a military-wide general thing to say, which is sometimes if you want something done or you want to take advantage of something, you got to seek it out.
Sure.
Reach your hand across the table, shake some hands, make some phone calls, because it's easy to just kind of stay in your lane.
Hide in your cubicle.
Yeah, so to speak. But if you, like you're saying, kind of make those connections. I've experienced a lot of it just working for an AFN. I know you can relate as PA, Sergeant Smith, that when you kind of see the different parts and you kind of get to know people, people are very generous.
Oh, yes.
They're like, hey, we're doing this, or this mission's here, or this exercise here. Why don't you come on with?
That's right. It makes it easy. And then all of a sudden, now everybody's coming to visit. There's only so many training areas here on the peninsula. And as long as you get more people out there to utilize those, you're not out there all the time every day. Somebody else can use it while you're still sitting there. Not only that, but it keeps your soldiers engaged and out of the barracks. Gets them out to see the rest of the country. It's
very true, and I appreciate you giving us your perspective, because we like low and high and somewhere in between, and I appreciate the words you've given for us and the unit that just came in. Welcome to them as well.
Of course, yes.
But I appreciate you guys being on. We're going to take our last little break here. We'll be back in 90 seconds with the weather, all that jazz, and we'll wrap up the show. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Sounds great. We'll be back in 90 seconds. Welcome back. It is 2:53 right now, 39 degrees, hazy skies for tonight, a low of 23. Should clear up for this evening and moving into your Friday fun day. 42 degrees, clear skies. If you want to get some money, some moolah, some cash, you want to trade in those presidential flashcards and get some Korean money instead, we got your exchange rates.
The DoD Community Bank exchange rate lists as $1. It's equal to 1,064 won.
Thank you very much. That is Army Lieutenant Colonel Matt Ketchum here with me in the studio for Talon Talk. And Army Sergeant Jesse Smith with our fuel prices.
Unleaded is $2.17, premium $2.57, and your diesel is $2.99.
Well, it pretty much does it for us. We had a jam-packed hour of Talon Talk. We covered all sorts of things, but sir, first and foremost, I want to make sure, is there anything we missed, anything that you want to put out there that you think we maybe didn't cover, or are we pretty peachy keen jelly bean?
I think we're pretty close to the jelly bean.
Yeah? Well, I appreciate you guys being here. We covered quite a bit. If you missed the show, we have recorded it. We'll put, I know you guys will put this on your Facebook page, right?
Yeah, we always do.
And your Facebook page is?
2nd Combat Aviation Brigade.
I mean, I knew it, but I wanted to give you the chance to push it out there. So definitely check that out. And we GoPro'd it as well. So we GoPro'd a segment. I'll put that on our Facebook page, AFN Osan, the official page on Facebook. But as we close up, as per usual, let's do some shout-outs. Anyone you guys want to say hello to or give a shout-out to?
I'd like to give a shout-out to the families back in Alaska. Appreciate you sticking with us and being supportive. We'll see you in a couple days.
Absolutely. And Sergeant Smith?
I actually want to give a shout out to my wife and daughter. It was my wife's birthday yesterday, so happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
And they should be here at the end of this month, so pretty excited for that.
Well, very cool. I appreciate both of you being on, gentlemen, and sir, as you're kind of leaving pretty soon.
It's pretty quick.
Thank you for your service and what you guys did here, and best of luck as you go back to Alaska, right?
Yes, that's correct. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Absolutely. This is Talon Talk. Make sure you tune in every single Wednesday, unless it changes like today, but Wednesday from 2 until 3. Let's get back into the music. This is Calvin Harris and John Newman with Blame on AFN Osan.